This is Crime Sunday, I believe. Yeah, hello everybody. Wim, I saw you over there in the chat that you were heading over to Rumble and listen. I can only have one Rumble prepared per day for some damn reason. So I chose the Serial Killer Sunday to prepare, because everything will go boom, 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 in and out. I forgot. This is not a Jodi Arias trial, so it's not in and out of each other. But just for information, day 5, I will upload it to Rumble later, as soon as everything here is done. But for now, you have to be satisfied with YouTube. Good afternoon, loading information, and Dirk, Salvador, Christine, and everybody else. I see regulars has found themselves here, and hopefully a few more will show up, because this stream is I say requested, I mean demanded by my a bunch of my channel members, because as you know, Thursday I just couldn't. I had stuff happening. So I tried to transfer you all over to Dali Talks, but and he did a great job, and but a bunch wanted to hear from me. So okay, you pay for memberships, so I listen. So here I am. And Friday I did a 90-minute what has happened in the trial so far, and but today it is the full day 5 of the trial, but we also have to have the last roughly 45 minutes of day 4, because I was too tired to get it to the end of the day. I have slept, I have eaten, I have done everything. I have a full pot of coffee. I have a file with lemonade and stuff, and my nicotine pouches. Hello, Elise Lane. Good to see you. Let's get to the cute defense. So how? Oh yeah, the YouTube stuff. You know this, but for you who are completely new and wondering who's this guy, hi, Nick. I'm a Swedish union rep. I do labor law, and I will try to help guide you through this trial with my knowledge about law, about evidence evaluation, about how witnesses acts on the stand, how the prosecution does, how the defense does, and so on, with a good amount of snark, maybe a name calling or two, and other stuff like that. What do I have for well, if this shows up, you know what's going on. Yeah, I have to. Yeah, exactly, John Gordon. Eventually, I have to go to the neighbor and raid. Cat attacks. I can't protect myself to cat attacks. You know that. I can only close my door and hope he doesn't break through. What can you do? What can you do? What can you do? But yeah, YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, become a member. There's members only stuff on the channel. You will get access to the Discord. And if you're really good at Discord, we need you, because I hardly know how to YouTube. Noisy neighbors are the worst. This is the great thing about living where I live. That neighbor is more than 100 yards away. That neighbor is roughly maybe 150 yards away. Yeah, I'm doing good. And thank you for all the suggestions about my bathroom breaks, but I think I will use my regular bathroom. Yeah, it's great. I mean, I grew up on the countryside, a bit up north from here, but a bit. I say it's about 6-8 hours drive north. And then for some reason in my 20s, I decided, hey, big city, and did that for 25 years or so. And then, no, I'm done. And for the past decade and a half, back to the countryside. And yeah, I'm doing good. I'm happy. Oh, no, but I was prepared to live like a hermit and bachelor for the rest of my life, but 7 or 8 years ago, some woman just leaned over the fence and said hi, and yeah, but not married. We are, what do you call it in the United States? Be together, live apart kind of relationship. So she lives in her apartment. Her kids is adults. So yeah. Yeah, I agree. Great success. I've been doing good in my life, I think. But yeah, yes. So okay, so now we've done all. Yeah, she said hi, and yeah, and I couldn't get away. She's a few years older than me as well, so I call it baby snatching. Oh. In the best possible way. Jesus. Yeah. Did I do the YouTube thing? Yes, I did. Yeah, become a member and everything. I don't mind super chats. I would prefer if you I want to give someone $50. Go to Sakura Anderson's GoFundMe, Gives and Go page in that case, and then send me $2 or something. And you can now own your own You Can't Unf a Cluster F mug. Link is in the description. Morning, Theory. Yeah. So let's see here. This is where we left off. They had done the cross, so I believe they are moving on to redirect. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't watched far ahead, but I do know that his testimony goes into day 5. So we still have some, but in order to make everything move along, 1.25 because let's see. Because that prosecutor there, I play him in 1.5, and he sounds normal to me, at least. So yeah. So are you all ready? and so we can get going. Let's see what happens. Oh, they're having a sidebar. Of course, they are having a cross-examination. Sound good, everybody? Press 1 for good sound. If you can't hear me, you can't press anything.
And I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yes. Alissa, when you reviewed the banking records, there was one transaction from May 15th.
That's correct.
And that's a transaction that we discussed before, that she deposited $229.81 and withdrew $200.
Actually, I'm not seeing the 229 now that I'm looking at the records. There is a transfer of funds into her account for $200 on the 1st. On the 4th, there's a withdrawal for $200. There's a deposit on the 15th of $10.81, and then a deposit on the 21st of $285.74. That's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, but that was the check where she cashed in and withdrew at the same time, wasn't it? Yeah. $1.25 because they are not moving along fast.
Reviewed other financial. So, Detective, as part of your review of this case file, you reviewed other financial records, correct?
Yes.
And in those other financial records, there was a mention of the paycheck of the $229 and then the $200 cash, right?
Can you? I don't know which bank records you're referring to. You're talking to Alyssa's bank records?
Yes.
Yeah, Alyssa's bank records are right here, and no, there's no. I don't see a deposit or a check for that amount.
Okay.
So,
now, sir,
then you testified wrong in the direct, and then you had the records in front of you. Dude, they talked about it. It was a check for $200 and blah, blah, blah dollars. She cashed it, but took $200 in cash and deposited $20 or something. Or am I remembering wrong? I don't think so.
Did you review the banking records analysis that was done by Detective Walker from MCAO?
I did not know.
No? Okay. Now, Detective, you had mentioned on direct that at some point, Mr. Turney closed Alyssa's bank account.
Yes.
And you said that he did that because he wanted to cut her off.
That's what he told. I believe he told ABC that.
Okay. But you left out the rest of the statement, that he was told that if he closed it, then she would be more likely to come back because she would be desperate.
Yes, I believe he said something like that.
Who told him that then?
Now, Detective, you spoke with many people who knew Alissa.
That's correct.
You read letters that she wrote her friends.
Yes.
You got a pretty good idea of the type of person that she was.
Yes.
Reviewed her school records.
Yes.
You knew she wasn't doing great in school.
I believe her GPA was 2.44 at Paradise Valley. So she was doing C+, B-
Sure.
academics.
She had an IEP.
That's correct.
An individualized education plan.
Correct.
And you saw documentation of that.
I did.
You saw that document or that IEP was in place her junior year.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Alissa attended 2 high schools.
Yes.
Barry Goldwater.
And Paradise Valley High School.
Correct. You were aware that when Alissa was a student at Barry Goldwater, she was skipping school.
That's what was stated to us by the defendant, yes.
Oh, everybody is doing the exact same thing all of a sudden. That was what he told us. That was what he stated. You, good sir, had every opportunity to go and control everything. You have had 15 freaking years to control it. And you only say he stated it. Either you didn't control the statements or you didn't give a damn. Everybody, the exact same, almost the exact same wordings from all witnesses. Every time, oh, this is bad for us. Yeah.
Or he documented that in multiple letters that he wrote.
Well, no, I'm not talking about what my client said. I'm talking about what other people told you.
Yes, some of her friends said
Yes.
that too, yes.
She was drinking.
So you try to elude that answer that multiple people told him this. Exactly. The school had records kept. I know here you have to keep the records, I believe 10 years. I am not entirely sure what it is in Arizona. How long do you have to keep records of students? But I doubt it is less.
Told you.
Yes, some of her friends said
Yes.
that too, yes.
She was drinking underage,
Yes.
experimenting with mushrooms.
Counsel, please approach on the record.
Approach on the record, no. But I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Damn it, I want to hear it. This is the first time I believe they've officially said mushrooms. So it will be really interesting to see if it is allowed in.
Counsel may ask your next question whenever you're ready. The objection is sustained. Counsel may
Okay.
ask your next question whenever you're ready.
Okay, so that wasn't allowed. Touch bell. Can't unrung the bell.
Now, Detective, you spoke to several of Alyssa's friends,
Yes.
and it was well known that she used marijuana.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Now, Detective, marijuana is more culturally accepted now, right?
Yes.
How is this sustained when it has already been brought up in court by witnesses and by the prosecution? Is it the way she asked? Let's go back.
Alyssa's friends,
Yes.
and it was well known that she used marijuana.
Objection. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Now, Detective, marijuana is
trial.
more culturally accepted now, right?
It's already in evidence.
But this was in 2023.
No, it wasn't 2023.
This was late 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
Marijuana possession was illegal in Arizona.
Yes,
Not even medical marijuana.
that's correct.
Now, you work in law enforcement.
Not anymore.
Well, you did
I did, yes.
for a very long time. Okay. So you have a general sense of
Yeah.
what kinds of cases were being prosecuted in Maricopa County.
I didn't track every case that was prosecuted in Maricopa County.
Sure, but you know generally that there are some things that are prosecuted and something that aren't.
Objection. Relevance.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes.
So you know that up until 2020, Maricopa County was still prosecuting possession of marijuana cases.
I believe so, yes.
And unlike today, dispensaries didn't exist.
Correct.
So Alissa had to be getting weed from somewhere.
Yes.
Friends,
I don't know where she got marijuana from.
drug dealers.
I don't know where she got marijuana from.
You didn't. What the F? Did you? Did you even ask the question, where did you had multiple witnesses testifying to smoking pot? You could have asked them in 2008.
Now, Detective, you talked a little bit about the lack of forensic evidence in this case.
Yes,
And as part of your investigation, the Phoenix Police Department searched 2 homes.
correct.
One that belonged to, or one where Mike and Sarah were living at the time in 2008.
Yes,
And then the home where Mike, Alissa, and Sarah lived when Alissa went missing.
correct.
The carpets were pulled up.
Yes,
The house was analyzed with luminol.
yes,
Now, Detective, luminol is a substance that the police use to detect blood.
correct.
Luminol can also detect blood even after someone cleans or removes it.
They can, yes.
And there were no signs of blood.
That's correct.
Brought out the cadaver dogs.
Yes.
No body parts.
They did not indicate any remains.
You didn't find any either.
No.
So there were no physical signs that a death occurred.
No physical evidence, no.
Now, you also searched the car that belonged to Mr. Turney in 2001.
She has to. She's a
I didn't
defense
personally
attorney.
know.
Well, as part of your investigation, somebody searched the car, right?
Detective Anderson did this.
Again, no physical evidence in the car that a death occurred.
I don't believe so, no.
Now, Detective, I want to talk to you now about the surveillance cameras that were inside the house.
Yes,
I first want to start with a camera that was inside the home. So this was back in the late 90s to early 2000s.
yes,
Nanny cams didn't exist.
No.
Ring cameras didn't exist.
No.
So the camera in the living room was a fairly primitive technology.
yeah, I never saw the camera itself. I assume so.
Videos weren't digitally recorded.
I don't believe so.
They weren't automatically uploaded to the cloud.
I don't think there was a cloud back then.
Right. So these were physical tapes that you found, that the Phoenix Police Department found.
Yes,
Tapes of birthday parties,
yes,
family events,
yes,
trips to Disneyland,
yes,
recordings of TV shows,
yes,
movies.
yes,
And Mr. Turney had surveillance both inside the home and outside the home.
yes,
And we do have some recordings from the surveillance, right?
yes,
But as you testified, there wasn't a tape from May 17th, 2001.
correct,
But there were also a lot of days without recordings.
correct.
There wasn't, for example, a tape for every single day in 2001 except May 17th.
That's correct.
Now, Detective, you're aware that there was also a phone recording system on the phone in the kitchen.
There's a recording system on the landline of the home, yes.
But you weren't sure which one it was on.
I believe it was the landline of the home.
Okay. Just a moment, Your Honor.
I believe I can fly. Well, with mushroom, no, I won't go there.
So, Detective, I know it's been a while since we've had landline phones, but you're aware that if you have a landline, you could have multiple phones in the home, right?
Yes,
And it would all be connected to the same line.
yes,
So, Detective, you reviewed tapes that were recordings of conversations on the phone.
yes,
There were recordings of Alissa talking to her friends,
yes,
but there were also recordings of Sarah talking on the phone,
yes,
recordings of Mike on the phone,
yes,
phone calls made to stores,
yes,
to school,
yes,
other family members.
yes.
It was a system that Mr. Turney had been using for years.
Like I said, I think the oldest tape I found was from the 1970s.
Sure. So before Alissa was born, too.
Yes,
Now, you said in the defense interview that there is no evidence that the phone recording system was targeted toward Alissa.
well, I mean, no direct evidence besides, Mike's explanation of his recording of all phone calls is due to the many lawsuits he was filing. That was his explanation of it.
Well, I'm just asking you if that's what you said in the defense interview.
I likely said that, yes.
Detective, do you recall when you went through some of these recorded phone conversations, a call where, and I don't want to get into the details of the call, but there was a call where Mike was talking on the phone and Alissa picked up on another receiver. Do you recall this?
Yeah, that probably occurred a number of times in the recordings I listened to.
So based on this, you know that at least at that time in the house, there was more than one phone.
Yes.
And we talked, or you talked about this a little bit on direct, but you reviewed the phone calls. The phone records, so you know that there was a call made to the Turney household on May 24th.
Yes.
From California.
Yes.
But you don't know if that call was picked up on the kitchen phone?
No, the records don't indicate that.
Okay. Or another phone?
I don't know.
Now, during your investigation, you found one tape recording system for a phone, right?
In the new house they were living in?
Correct.
Yes, I believe there was a recording system there.
But you only found one recording system?
I believe so. And again, that's the house they were living in when we did the search warrant in 2008, not the other house. So I don't know what recording system was there in 2001.
Do you have any evidence that there were multiple recording systems?
In 2001?
Yes.
I don't know.
And Detective, I'm sure you recall from your review of those phone calls that a lot of these calls ended abruptly or never started back up again.
Yeah, there were instances where the recording would stop in mid-conversation.
And Detective, going back to the call on the 24th, Michael never said that call was recorded, right?
I don't believe he's ever stated that.
And we don't know if there ever was a recording.
That was not that you should have not. You should have formulated that question really different. We don't know if it ever were a recording. Not exactly, but it sounded a bit weird. But yeah. Yes.
Detective, you said that you never found it, but we don't know if it exists.
Again, it was never found, so I don't know that it exists.
Detective, you impounded the recording systems in this case?
Either Detective Anderson or I did, yes.
But you don't have any personal knowledge of how those systems work?
I don't know.
Now, Detective, you spoke with James Turney during your investigation, right?
Which James Turney are you referring to?
Michael's son.
Okay, yeah. I also spoke to his brother, James.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. You were trying to get information about what he might know about her disappearance.
Yes.
And you specifically asked him about a phone call that Alissa made to her father, Mike Turney, on May 24th, 2001.
If you can refresh my memory of what you're referring to,
Sure.
I'm not.
And it might be helpful if you have, it's Bates 116 that I'm going to be referring to in this line of questioning.
Okay, so when he started asking questions, so he interviewed Michael, then got a hold of the son and asked directly, did you know about the phone call between Alissa and Michael? So at one point, he was investigating this as if the father was truthful. That's my interpretation.
Can you give me the supplement number? I don't.
Sure.
Yes, this is the defense cross-examination.
It looks like supplement 38.
Okay, give me 1 second. There's 2,000 pages here, so it takes me
Yeah.
a while to find it. Can you let me know which, I mean, it's a
I think it's,
lengthy supplement, so what area are you referring to?
so it's Bates one. Do you have a Bates stamp on there or no?
I do not have a Bates stamp. Can you tell me what page number it is?
I don't think I have that exhibit.
Okay, so this means that this guy, have a different report than what was supplied to the defense. They should be identical and read from as identical. Now, the defense might have just written it out. I don't know. But basically, if you have one report, they should read from the exact same copies.
Maybe just show me what you're looking at. I can find it online. Okay.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you.
Detective, I just showed you a page from one of the supplements that you wrote.
Yes.
And in that report, there's a discussion of a phone call that Michael Turney received.
Yes.
Now, James told you that his dad told him that after he received a call, or that he received this call, but he could not remember what Mike claimed Alissa had told him.
Yes.
James did not tell you that his dad told him there was only static on the other end of the line, and that his father said, Alissa, is that you?
No.
Now, as a detective, you know that police reports are written close in time to an interview
Yes.
because they need to be accurate,
Yes.
reliable.
Yes.
If the case goes to trial, the state relies on them,
Yes.
defense relies on them.
Yes.
Now, if James had told you that there was only static on the other line, would you have included that in your report?
I believe so. Yes.
It would have been significant.
Yes.
It was different than what Mike had told other people.
Yes.
And you would have wanted to include that in your report,
Yes.
but you didn't.
No.
Okay. Now, you interviewed James Turney, and I'm referring to Michael's son, once on January 6, 2009.
Yeah, I interviewed him multiple times.
But there was a formal interview that was recorded, right?
My interviews with him were recorded. Yes.
There's only one recorded interview.
I believe there's another one that's recorded too.
Well, in that specific interview, he did not once mention that there was static on the other line of the call.
I wonder if we will hear some of this from the defense, because if she claims there's only one recorded interview and he claims there is two, where is the other one? And why doesn't the defense have it? Or it might be a mistake from her side. I don't know. But this is sounds a bit dodgy. Unless there's an explanation for it, it sounds dodgy.
In the interview that we're talking about now, no.
Yeah, but the defense attorney...
Detective, I want to talk more about that call from California. You reviewed phone records from May 24th, 2001.
Yes.
And those records show a call from the phone number 909-683-0000. 9734.
Yes.
The call took place roughly at 5 a.m.,
Yes, I believe so.
lasted about 28 seconds.
I believe it's 29.3 seconds.
So during your investigation, you learned that 909 is a California area code.
Yes.
And 1 week after Alyssa's disappearance, there was a phone call from a California phone number to the Turney's home.
Yes.
And Mr. Turney told the Phoenix Police Department it was Alissa.
Yes.
Now, you weren't on the case at this point, but you reviewed the file.
Yes.
So you know that the Phoenix Police Department didn't get records of that phone call.
No.
And the phone records would have been important because they would have shown where the phone number, or I guess where the phone number was associated with, right?
Yes.
And as part of your investigation, you know that Mr. Turney took matters into his own hands. He wrote letters trying to get those records.
Yes.
He wrote a letter to his congressman,
Yes. He filed a lawsuit against Quest for the number.
and he got the records.
Yes.
Now, the California number was linked to a gas station in Riverside, California.
Yes.
It's about 70 miles from Torrance, California.
I don't know the exact mileage.
Unless the prosecution can show that Michael Turney paid someone to make that phone call, or somehow had the technology to fake that phone call, that was an actual phone call from a payphone in California, where the letter said she was more or less going, where apparently she told all the people, where she had an aunt. The same aunt who years before tried to get custody of all the kids. To me, the prosecution implying that there's no evidence that the phone call was picked up is ridiculous. If you have a 50-50, either if you have two alternatives here, and one alternative is someone called the landline at Michael's home. And the other option is that Michael somehow paid someone to make the phone call. It was a phone wrong dial. He had a technology to fake the phone call. Which one is more probable? You tell me, chat. You tell me. For me, it's more probable that it was a phone call. Maybe from Alissa, maybe not. Michael claims it was from Alissa. And if there's nothing that speaks against it. And now we learned that he recorded everything well before any of the kids were born. 2001. And this guy, well, unless there's evidence that he knows how to spoof, then in 2001, not so much. This is a guy who relies on VHS.
But Alyssa's aunt lived in Torrance.
Yes.
Okay. Detective, I want to talk about the written agreements between Alissa and her father.
Okay.
We've discussed this afternoon about contracts that Michael wrote.
Yes.
And Detective, you're aware that Mike has drafted contracts for Alissa.
Yes.
He's also drafted them for Charity's parents.
Yes.
Now, Alissa went to live with her brother, Michael Seth Turney, in May of 2000.
Yes. Michael, Seth, and John.
And on May 19th, 2000, Alissa signed a contract or signed a statement, which was titled Statement of Things About My Life.
I believe so, yes.
This was a document with 16 bullet points.
Oh,
I believe so, yes.
The majority of bullet points referred to drugs and sex.
Yes.
My father has never given me marijuana.
Yes.
My father has never allowed me to use marijuana.
Yes.
Now they might have
My
opened
father
the
has
door.
discouraged me from engaging in sexual activities with anyone underage.
Yes.
So, I mean, of the
What? What? She must mean while she was underage. I'm not sure. That sounded weird.
16 bullet points, there was also 4 that referenced abuse generally.
I have to look at it to. I mean, I'm going by memory, but if you want to show it to me, I can.
This is played in 1.25 as well. Think about that. Remember that. But in there is that allegation of SA. And I'm wondering if they haven't opened the door now for letting the entire contract in. And that allegation is inflammatory AF. Just an allegation of SA can ruin people's lives. Remember Johnny Depp?
Thank you.
Detective, I've handed you a piece of paper. Do you recognize that piece of paper, that writing?
I do.
And for the record, this is Exhibit 68. Now, Detective, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It is Exhibit 68.
Okay.
I don't know if you were asking me that or not.
I was just saying it for the record.
Okay.
And then, Detective, did you come across this document as part of your search of the house?
Yes.
Okay. So, Detective, I asked you a question about whether or not there was 4 bullet points that referred to abuse generally.
Can you tell me which numbers you're referring to? I mean, there's 16 points, so I can.
Right.
Oh,
So,
bullshit.
I mean, I can read it
You
if
know
you'd like.
exactly
well,
what
it's
what's you're trying to open the door. Bullshit. You know exactly which bullet points which is referred to. You're just trying to open the door even more. Bull crap.
let me see.
The first bullet point says my
Hold on.
father.
Oh, hold on. Why don't you give me a second?
Okay.
And there he tries again. They are so desperate to try to get this in because they know their entire case more or less rests on the allegations of SA. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I have to go by what is in evidence in this trial.
So bullet point number 1.
Well, hold on. Are you asking him to read from the
No.
exhibit?
No, I'm just to refresh his recollection.
Yes.
So bullet point number 1, number 4, 11, and 12.
Okay. What is your question?
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
All right. So as part of that, those 4 bullet points says, my father has never physically or sexually abused my sister, Sarah. My father has never physically or sexually abused any of
Okay.
his children.
Doors open.
Well, you skipped number 1. Is that you referred to 1 for?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you're going out of order then. Okay. So yeah, the one you just mentioned is bullet point number 4. It says my father, Mike Turney, has never allowed me to physically or
so-
sexually abuse my younger sister, Sarah Turney.
So there's bullet points in there that don't just relate to Alissa, right?
Yes.
Now, you had testified on direct that Alissa was made to sign a statement saying that Mike had never abused her.
Yeah, that's in this contract
Yeah.
right here.
But that was the focus of the contract.
Bullet point number 1 says
Sure.
my
But there were
father.
other things in the contract, right? 16 bullet points.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 1 says my father, Mike Turney, has never
Sir?
physically or sexually abused me.
Oh,
That-
you mother.
That wasn't what I asked you.
You're asking me what the contract says, ma'am.
No, you know,
We can move on.
you knew exactly. You liar. You are so desperate to get this in that you're reading out of context. You asshole. From a legal standpoint, this should be cause for mistrial. Another one. He knows exactly what is excluded from evidence. And he made a direct choice to ignore a court order.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
I agree with John Gary here. I think the contract is very damning. Nobody who is not a rapist would ever think of making their daughter sign such a thing. Not enough for a
Now,
conviction.
Detective, there's also another written statement that you found through your investigation.
I found thousands of written statements, ma'am. Which one are you referring to?
Well, this one was specifically referenced during your testimony, a parental custodian and child agreement.
Yes.
May 23rd, 2000 is the date.
Yes.
4 days after Alissa went to live with her brother,
I'm not sure the exact date she went to live with her brother.
but roughly around the same time.
I know it was May of 2000.
Good points, Sal. I might, John, if I was paranoid and my daughter had threatened to make accusations or had called CPS to get back at me. Yeah, because Michael Turney had already been through the CPS with the aunt who wanted to take custody of all the kids. But remember, just being accused of can drive people to do things. I'm sure there are examples out there where people who just by the accusation either ended themselves or ended others. And if the jury believes that, we might have a conviction. They might get a conviction out of it.
13 paragraphs.
I believe so, yes.
Would you like to see a copy to refresh your recollection?
I would. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much, the Chi Life. Much appreciated. I do my best. Like and subscribe. Share me on social stuffy.
And then for the record, this is State's Exhibit 110.
Okay.
So, sir, you briefly read over that statement.
Yes.
There's 13 paragraphs.
Yes, for you who don't know, Sal has been in the courtroom, so he knows what the jury consists of, and apparently the majority is older white women. And by older, I recall him saying 50 plus, some 60 plus, maybe even 70 plus. So yeah.
$13 bullet points, I guess, yes.
Okay. And the purpose of it was to give temporary guardianship to Michael Seth Turney.
Yes.
There were rules in place for when she returned home.
Yes.
Can't bring boys over without permission.
Which bullet point are you referring to, ma'am? So number 10 is what you referred
Yes, number 10. She won't bring boys home without permission.
to? It says never bring a male friend to the home of her father.
She can't date until she's 18.
Again, which bullet point are you referring to?
Sorry. Here. From Bass, the guy tried reading it out multiple times. She should have asked the just instruct witness to answer the question only. I believe she did that early on in the cross-examination, and that would be on Wednesday's stream. So yeah, but yeah, they should have asked the judge for another instruction. Good point. Yeah, I think we had the same discussion Wednesday. Remember, during that trial, his reasoning was that 2 union members killed his daughter, and that is why he manufactured these pipe bombs and fire bombs. So you could argue that searching for his daughter for 7, 8, 9 years finally put him over the edge when this dude started accusing him. You could argue it both ways. But in this trial, that conviction cannot be spoken about because prejudice, it's more prejudicial than probative. And this was an event 9 years later when he was convicted of that. So it is not nowhere near close enough in time to be related by law. But good point. Thank you, John, for bringing that up. Yes, he tried to kill 2 dead union members. So
number 12 is
Yeah. So detective number 12 refers to a rule that she can't date until she's 18.
it says that any and all male friends she associates with in exchange of any sort of affection between a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Sir, I'm not asking you to read it.
But the statement you're saying, you're interpreting is different than what I'm seeing on the paper.
that's not up to you.
Then just say no.
No.
Okay.
So,
She can't use marijuana.
Jesus Christ, this guy makes me.
Yes, that's one of the bullet points, number 9.
She'll enter a drug rehab program.
Yes, that's number 13.
And then if you go to the first page, there's an acknowledgement that she's not moving in with her brother for any of the following reasons. Do you see what I'm referring to?
Is that bullet point number 3?
I believe so. There's several bullet points underneath it. Do you see that?
Yes, there's a A through J underneath that.
Yes. So acknowledgement that she's not moving out for any of the following reasons. Lack of adequate food.
Lack of food is what it says.
Okay. Neglect,
Yes.
drug abuse,
Yes.
sexual abuse,
Yes.
physical abuse,
Yes.
sexual abuse of her sister Sarah,
Yes.
physical abuse of her sister Sarah.
Yes.
So again, this custody agreement mentions physical and sexual abuse,
It does. Yes.
but it's not the focus of the contract.
Well, objection, that's calls for speculation.
The witness may answer if he knows.
It's one of the bullet points in the contract.
Okay. And Judge, how are we doing on time today?
We'll end around 4:30.
Okay. Detective, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the phone records that you reviewed in this case.
I agree, but that is up to the prosecution on redirect. It is not his job. His job is to answer the questions as they are asked. And yeah, he doesn't really do that because, in my interpretation, he's desperate to make Michael Turney look even worse than he already is. Because the prosecution, in my opinion, knows this is probably the weakest case I have covered so far.
Yes.
You reviewed Mike's cell phone records from the time that Alissa went missing.
The cell phone bills that were found in the search. Yes.
Sure. And do you have a copy of that in front of you? Would you like me to provide you with a Bates stamp?
If I can refer to my report.
Sure.
I kind of agree. I liked her up until the contracts bit.
And Detective, just for reference, I'm referring to Bates 994.
Yeah, I don't have the
Oh.
Bates number. Is it supplement 275?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you,
I have that in
EU.
front of me.
So as part of your review, you discovered that there were several phone calls made between Mike and Alissa on May 17th.
Yes.
The first one at 10:05 a.m.
Yes.
is about a minute long.
Yes.
The second one at 10:24 a.m.,
Yes.
1 minute long.
Yes.
And then we just discussed this earlier, but one at 1:09 p.m.,
Yes.
7 minutes long.
Yes.
Now there's also several other phone calls that are made that afternoon. There's one made at 3:41 p.m.,
Yes.
4:41 p.m.,
Yes.
4:57 p.m.,
Yes.
5 p.m.
Yes.
And then at 5:01 p.m., there's a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:16 p.m., a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:17 p.m., a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
5:56, call to the home.
I don't believe that one is a call to the home phone.
Nope. But Sarah is Michael's actual daughter. Alissa was stepdaughter or adoptive daughter.
Well, at 6:22, there was another call to an unknown number.
Yes, for 7 minutes.
6:30, a call to the home phone.
Yes, for 1 minute.
6:30, a call to Alyssa's cell.
6:33.
I'm sorry, 6:33.
1 minute. Yes.
Okay. And then there's phone calls for the rest of the night.
Yes.
Okay. Till the late hours.
I think the last call is at 23:59 hours, so 11:59. Yes.
Now, Detective, as part of your investigation, you also reviewed cell phone records from June 2001,
For
Mr. Turney's cell phone.
not in this supplement. I don't have that documented.
Jesus Christ.
So this might be a good place to stop and we can pick up tomorrow.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take.
Okay, this is really interesting because there seem to be calls out of the house at a time where the defense can allege that Michael wasn't at home. Because once he started, because the sister testified that when he picked her up, he was trying to get a hold of Alissa. And if those overlap, I don't know the distance between the school and the home, but if there is an overlap between calls in calls out, that would make the prosecution's case weak no matter what. But then they have the prosecution have the burden of proof to say something fishy was going on. If the defense can allude to someone was making calls out when Michael wasn't home. Okay, the Chi Life apparently also has been in the courtroom just as well. Okay, the cell might from cell. I've heard that it was a majority female. So Chi and cell death fight. No, okay. Thank you, Chi. We run a good possibility of those 40-year-old plus euros being Uber-based. Only issue is going to be what kind of pool they are drawing from in Arizona. Yeah. That might very well be. Yeah, and I agree. The contract, it's too much of a loose end if you don't know how, especially this guy will answer and the jury will interpret. I have a hard time understanding why they are bringing this up at all, because this has, in my opinion, I don't know Arizona rules, this might have opened the door completely. But let's listen and see if they are saying something.
Our evening recess. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room at 10:30 tomorrow morning. You can take everything with you as you leave the courtroom this evening. Please remember the admonition. Have a nice evening. See you tomorrow at 10:30. Jury's now excused. Please be seated.
Okay, let's see if they have anything to say.
Sir, you're free to step down.
Okay.
Let the record reflect the presence of counsel and the defendant. The jury is not present. Anything for the record from the state? From the defense?
Nothing from defense.
All right. Have a nice evening. We'll see you tomorrow, 10:15. We are adjourned.
Okay. That was surprising. I was almost certain they would have objected to him trying to read out loud from the paper. Okay. Now let's go directly into day 5. And oops, yeah, that's my tractor. For those who wonder, it's right outside. And yes, it's an old tractor with the license plate FCK. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm quite proud of it. I have others as well. I have some stuff here, and yeah, the 90s were an interesting area of tattooing, and that I won't show you. Okay, day 5. All right, let's get right into it. Oh, wait. It needs. I need to rewire the entire tractor and blow out. Yeah, clean everything inside out. But when I bought it, it started. But it's too much of a hazard. So it's outside now until I get the stuff for it and can start work with it. And at the moment, I'm working night and day, so it's on the hold for a bit. but it's been around since 1954, so it can hold on for a few more months. Oh. No, I do not have a tramp stamp.
I think one of the issues was we had discussed earlier about the letter that they.
Discussion. Angela, if you,
Okay.
and do you want to wait for your counsel? Anything we need to talk about before we get started?
Yes.
And do you want to wait for your client to be here?
It's gas.
No, I think we could address, I think, what they want to address.
All right, we are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, and the defendant is not present. Mr. Jackson is waiving his presence for purposes of this discussion. Angela, if you want to go tend to the jury, feel free to do so.
I think one of the issues was we had discussed earlier about the letter that they sent Mr. Turney while he was in prison, asking to do an interview. My understanding is they're not going to use it, so that becomes moot at this point. You had one issue?
So before we leave that one, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to put on the record that, and I told Mr. Bailey about this, one of the jurors came on the elevator, said, "Good morning" to us. I didn't respond. Ms. Hicks did respond, "Good morning," or something of that line. So I just let her know, try not to do that, but I wanted to let everybody know that. The other issue is there may be an issue with one of the recordings. We wanted to review it to double check what the transcript had. That recording does not exist right now. So I'm trying to figure out if I have a copy of it or not.
Okay, so you'll keep me posted.
Yes. And that I think will be played in that.
Afternoon.
No, that was one that was going to be played this morning.
Well, it'll have to wait. So
Okay.
The other thing that, so you can be thinking about your ruling. You remember when you said, can we, with that call between Alissa and her aunt in California, you wanted more information about when it occurred. And I feel a little silly about this, but when you listen to it again, Alissa clearly says, I'm 17, which means it had to have happened after April. So her birthday was in early April of that year.
Okay.
That's the most I can give you with regard to when it occurred.
Yeah, that I mean, at least one of my sister claimed she was 18 the entire year she turned 18. So I don't think that's evidence in itself. And her birthday is in September. And she started referring to herself, well, I'm born in this and that year. That means I'm 18 the whole year. That was her logic. So, yeah. But let's see what the
So it would have been within 6 weeks of her disappearance.
Correct.
Okay. Did the defense want to add to the record?
No, Your Honor. Or yes, we still believe it's hearsay. It is hearsay on both Lynette and Alissa. If there's portions that they believe are important, I'm not sure playing the whole recording is the best solution to that because it brings in a lot of hearsay. It brings in prejudicial statements made by Lynette towards the defendant
she didn't
in
work.
that recording.
Are there portions that you want redacted? So
It definitely would be a portion we want redacted. Again, the state has never clearly said what, obviously I know part of the purpose for the recording is to have the jury hear from Alissa, hear her voice, kind of humanize her. I get that that's where they're going, but unfortunately the content is hearsay, and depending on what it is, then maybe the limited portion of the statement is what should be played. If whatever the main part of, if it's that she could have gone to her aunt's house or whatnot, then that's what they could elicit from that. I don't think their whole 6-minute conversation is necessary or appropriate.
Well, I just need to know what portions you want redacted.
I mean, at this point, I believe the whole thing, but I would have to listen to it again to specifically. I know there is a portion where she talks about her dad being mad because of her boyfriend, and Lynette says, "Is that because he's black or something like along
She's
those
like,
lines?"
why is he black?
And so,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
again, it's derogatory comments towards the defendant. It's hearsay evidence based on Lynette and shouldn't come in.
Is there anything else you wanted redacted other than that statement?
At this point, I don't know. But
When will you know?
I guess I would have to listen to it. It would take 4 minutes or 5
Okay.
minutes.
Mr. Imberdino, when were you anticipating introducing that call?
tomorrow. Oh,
Well,
this afternoon at
wait
least.
till this afternoon.
Okay.
I will listen to it over lunch.
Okay, so it is my inclination to grant the state's request to admit the recording of the conversation between Alissa and Aunt Lynette. The court finds it is not being offered to prove the truth of any matter that is asserted in the phone call, other than to establish the relationship between Alissa and her aunt's offer that Alissa could come if she needed to. So the court finds that the call is admissible. But if there are portions that the defense is seeking redaction of, I'd certainly consider that.
And just for the record, be clear that we're discussing, that is like a 2-hour call. You're referring just to the 6 minutes with Alissa. And at this point, that ruling only to that portion, correct?
Mr. Bordino, were you going to try to introduce something beyond the clip that you gave me?
Oh, yes, he was. Ha ha! Sneaky. That's sneaky.
What you heard.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So parties will get back to me in regard to any potential redaction, requested redactions, and I'll rule on those requested redactions. So counsel, you just advise me when that's going to happen, and let the record reflect that defendant is now present. Counsel, anything we need to take care of before we bring the jury in?
I don't believe anything else.
Okay, so that was damn. I have a tractor machine there. Okay, we are an hour and 13 minutes in. I think we can do another hour and a half at least before we all need a 10-minute break so I can load the next portion and everything. Just so you know. Again, some housekeeping. Like, subscribe. I prefer you become a member. Then you get members only content. It's $3 a month. You're more than welcome to send me super chats, but if it's a larger sum, please send it to Zachariah Anderson's defense fund at the Gives and Go. And while we are mentioning that, hold. That would be Friday, the 28th. I would want you to book that date because it is Chatfaced for Charity stream, Friday the 28th. Rules of engagement at that time will be $150 into Zachariah Anderson's defense fund, $50 to me. That gives you one full shot, not the tiny glass. It is the 2-ounce glass, just to make it interesting. So you have the option, you have the opportunity to do a good thing and get me chat-faced. Just so you know. All right. Where was I? Yeah. Okay, that was taken care of. Let's get back to this. And boost is on. Sound is up. Let's go.
Was there something you wanted to bring up yesterday?
And counsel, just to avoid any delays for the jury and locating exhibits.
I'll grab those right now.
I prefer not today because I have stuff to do tomorrow.
I'll let Angela know she can bring the jury in.
So if you are thinking about, oh, we can get Nick drunk today too, please don't, because I have stuff to do tomorrow. But the 28th, I might have to give David the ability to pull the plug, because if you're really generous, you might see me.
Mr. Bordino, after Detective
Eagle White
Summershoe,
is
how many
drunk.
more witnesses do you believe the state is going to call?
I think only one.
Okay,
Maybe.
we're off the record.
A young man.
Yeah. The difference is I need to I need to be able to restock this as well. And yeah. So hence, and this was by a vote from the members of the channel. They had 3 options, and they chose $150 to Zach Anderson's defense fund and $50 to me. That because as it is now, the memberships and some of the super chats is what keeps the channel afloat. And it cost about $350 a month just to keep it afloat. That over there is $250-300 of whiskey. So I need to restock that as well. Yeah, okay. Excited Audience says, I mean, we can donate money, but you're going to get drunk. Let's not kid ourselves. Well, yes, whiskey. Yes, I know box wine is cheap. I refer to box wine as alcohol-infused grape juice. Don't really consider it wine. And it would take a hell of a lot of wine. So this is faster and more effective. I have Highland Park 12, Scotch. I have Tullamore Irish, and Arran, which is also Scotch. And then there's a Swedish whiskey that is almost always in there. But that disappeared on one of Legal Advice's stream. Crap happens, I think. But let's get back to the trial. Okay. Davel, do I enjoy tequila? No. Do I drink it? That's another question. Oh, come on. Okay, not much further. Jury's coming in. So far, what I've heard is that Robert Bond has agreed to spend time. I don't know if he's prepared to represent, because then you're talking about a hell of a lot of money. But just Robert Bond's donating his time to aid the Anderson family in this is worth a lot. Already heard he took him on pro bono. No, but yesterday on David's stream, they have said that they haven't, Solomon said they haven't gotten the, appellate lawyer yet. So, so far they are just paying the Kenosha court system to get the transcripts. And that include, they have to, because the entire transcript must be in the appeal, the entirety. And that is almost 3 weeks of trial, including Judge Schroeder's mumbling that has to be written out. But this is this trial.
Please be seated. We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great to see you back this morning. Thank you so much for making it back on time. Let's see. I found out this morning that you all were waiting for the jury bus, I think on Monday, for an unfortunately long period of time. I've now learned when the jury shuttle bus driver takes a lunch break. So you all have now educated me as to when that is, and I will do my best to avoid you having to wait in the event that we break early any further days. So my apologies for that. Let the record reflect that Detective Summershoe is back on the witness stand. Sir, I will remind you that you are still under oath. And Ms. Hicks, you may resume your cross-examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Sir,
Angela, he needs headphones.
while he's getting headphones, I'm going to hand you a document, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Hicks, if you want to speak so that your client can make sure it's
Oh.
okay.
Detective, do you recognize that document?
Yes, it's a supplement I generated in the investigation.
Now, Detective, as part of your investigation, and we talked about this yesterday, you reviewed several cell phone bills and records. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Detective, did you have a cell phone in the early 2000s?
Yes.
So back in the early 2000s, if someone had a cell phone, it normally would include only home coverage or home network coverage, right?
I'm not sure.
Well, normally if you had a cell phone, you would purchase a cell phone plan and it would cover mostly the area that you lived in.
I'm not quite sure I understand what you're asking.
That's all right. Sir, are you familiar with what roaming charges are?
Yes.
Can you please explain that to the jury?
Roaming charges are, I guess, expenses that a company would charge you if you're outside of a particular area, if you, I guess, outside the country or outside a particular area.
Right. So, Detective, when you reviewed some of Mr. Turney's phone bills, you came across a phone bill from June 2001. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, I handed you a document that has, if you turn to the second page, in about the top portion of the page, there's a paragraph that you wrote about roaming charges that Mr. Turney had in June 2001.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, counsel, which supplement number is it?
275.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, there were also several calls that were made to California numbers,
Yes.
and you noted that.
Yes.
Several calls received from California numbers.
Well, in my supplemented document, there was a California cellular number that where calls are made to.
Your supplement also says that there were several calls received from California numbers as well.
You know this.
I believe that's a reference to the roaming. I'd have to look at the bill again to take a look at that.
Okay. Detective, you also testified on direct examination that the usage of Star 69 had been used before in the home. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Detective, you also know that at the time, Mr. Turney had 2 teenagers in the home.
Yes.
So you don't know who it was that was using Star 69?
No.
Detective, yesterday you testified that Mike had been in the military,
Yes.
that he was a deputy sheriff for 4 years in the 1970s,
Yes.
that he had an investigator's license,
Yes.
but you didn't mention that he was also an electrician.
Yes, he was.
He was a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers,
Yes.
a union.
Yes.
He got injured on the job.
That there's documentation that,
Just yes or no?
again, there's documentation that he claimed he was injured on the job.
Oh, fuck.
Sir, you were the case agent at some point.
He wouldn't have. I know this much about the union. If the union claims papers from actual, they need a medical doctor to write off before they agree to a medical leave. I'm quite sure that since he received benefits and some whatever welfare you call it, you just don't get that by phoning it in. Thank you. Forgot the tractor. Well, I mean, this guy, he really wants this guy to be guilty. That's not your job, officer. Your job is to investigate, provide evidence, and report about the evidence objectively. Damn, this guy is retired from the police force now, and I'm so happy he is.
Yes.
So part of your responsibilities, you reviewed the case file,
Yes.
previous supplements.
Yes.
You reviewed numerous letters,
Yes.
numerous conversations,
Yes.
emails.
Yes.
Now, as part of your review of the case file, did you review any communications between Mike to police chiefs,
Yes.
congressmen,
Yes.
the FBI?
Yes.
Now, I don't want to go into the contents of those communications, but based on your review of those communications, is it fair to say that Mike was dissatisfied with the investigation?
There were some letters that were praising the police, and there were some letters that were he was complaining about the police and government. And
Sure. And we had been, yesterday we had talked about one of those letters from early on in the investigation where he was praising the police, right?
Yes.
But there was also a lot of other communications where he was not.
True.
Sir, as part of your investigation in this case, you reviewed information from one of Alissa's coworkers, Chris Rittenauer.
Yes.
Now, Chris worked at the Jack in the Box with Alissa,
Yes.
and Chris wrote a letter about Alissa after she went missing.
Yes, at the behest of the defendant.
Did you review that letter?
Yes.
Now, as part of your review, did you also read a description written by Alissa's supervisor at Jack in the Box?
Yes.
And you learned information about a person at the Jack in the Box where Alissa worked.
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
It's his investigation.
Just a moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, may counsel approach?
You may.
Jesus Christ.
On the record.
It's not about conclusive. It's about the weight of the evidence. And they allude to evidence, but there are exactly zero physical evidence. Could this be one where the judge actually says, yeah, I agree with the defense. By law, you don't have anything. But then again, I believe there's a grand jury that thought it was enough to bring it to prosecution, so I don't think so. Judges hate directed verdict motions. They want to cover the tracks, wash their hands and say, jury said it, not me. So far, this judge has been decent, but I do believe this judge, as sadly in many other cases, are a bit biased towards the prosecution. But at least he did confer the motion, no, you can't mention the allegations of SA. Had it been Judge Schroeder, he would have spoken about it for 30 minutes and then allowed it in. Now, that door might have been opened anyway. Don't smile. Sir, don't smile. There's Stumpy.
Sir, based on your reading of the two letters that we referenced, you learned of a individual who was identified as having contact with Alissa,
who already testified.
There was a person that the defendant named, yes.
But those letters weren't written by the defendant, yes or no?
They were written at his request.
Yeah, but by his request is not the same thing as him dictating what's in them. Damn it. Jesus Christ, this guy is slimy. Everything. Well, he requested it. Well, of course, you can argue it both ways. He requested it because he wanted the police, because since the police didn't do jack crap for 7 years, he might have helped them. Please write what you know about Alissa, and that's it. By the request of the defendant doesn't mean more than that. So now when he alludes that, no, it was the defendant by proxy who wrote the letters, that's as close to a lie on the stand under oath you can get.
Sir, as part of your investigation, you interviewed John Lackman.
Yes,
He was the boyfriend of Alissa Turney at the time of her disappearance.
he was.
And at some point in the investigation, you learned information that Sarah said that she witnessed John Lackman violently grab Alissa.
Yes, Sarah said that.
Alissa had bruises.
Yes,
Alissa had an injured hand.
yes,
And you asked Mr. Lackman about physical violence between him and Alissa.
yes,
He said no.
correct.
You never confronted him with the information Sarah gave you.
Yes, I did. We asked about the injured hand. He said that was due to he accidentally closed the door on her hand, and he said it wasn't a serious injury.
Well, sir, you didn't include that in your supplement. Is that correct?
I believe there is a supplement with that.
I believe.
Would you like to refresh your recollection?
Sure.
Again, do they have different copies? In that case, this is a mistrial.
Sir, did you ask him about violently grabbing Alissa?
I think I asked in general, is there any violence between you two?
So you didn't specifically ask him about violently grabbing her?
No.
Did you ask him about bruises on her face?
No.
Okay. Now, sir, you were the case agent later on in this case, correct?
Yeah, from late 2016 to early 2017.
But before you were the case agent, there were other detectives who were assigned to the case as the case agent, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So early on in the investigation, Detective Schoenfelder was the case agent?
He was the original detective, yes.
Now, you testified on direct that the way Detective Schoenfelder handled the investigation is the way that you would not have handled it.
Correct.
You testified yesterday that had you received the file that you would have gone out and canvassed the neighborhood.
I went in there for a bit. It's not good. And yeah. But I do believe that they had a poll on where it was almost 50-50, and then they took that poll down. So
I said that's a possible investigative technique.
Sure. You said that you would have interviewed Alyssa's friends and family.
Yes.
And Detective, I'm sure you're aware that there are no supplements from Detective Schoenfelder in this case.
Yes.
So there is no record of any investigation that was done by Detective Schoenfelder.
Yeah, there's no documentation of what he did in the investigation.
Okay.
So jack crap was done
Just
for
a moment, Your Honor.
7 years. Too many breaks.
Sir, I want to ask you a couple of follow-up questions about the letter from Chris Rittenauer.
Okay.
So you testified that he wrote that at the behest of Michael Turney.
Yes.
But does anywhere in the letter it say that Michael Turney was making him write that letter?
No.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Any redirect?
Okay, this means they couldn't bring up the creepy coworker boss, who we saw on the stand on Tuesday, I think, who had damn, he was in a rush getting out of there. This guy, I've heard either he was about to turn 20 or he was over 20. She was 17. It was more than 24 months. He was well aware of this because he was her boss, which makes it their encounter with allegedly, stated by a witness, making out and heavy petting. Possible statutory rape. What did the cops do with this information? Nothing. Now, for you, again, if you're new here, I'm a union rep. I do labor law. The amount of young bosses who takes advantage of teenage girls is staggering. Now, she's 17, volunteer or not, according to Arizona law, she was a minor. What did they do to this boss who was more than 24 months older? Nothing. Okay, that was cross-examination. I believe they bringing up the contract was a bit of a mistake. And all in all, I'm not happy. I don't think this was a good cross-examination. They didn't, well, there's still the same information as before. There's no physical evidence. They can only allude to this Michael Turney is a creep, please convict him. So this, in my opinion, shouldn't have even have gone to trial. I don't know what was said to the grand jury. And I don't know what was said to the grand jury to make them say, of course, you can prosecute. But it's my belief and my theory that Michael Turney is old, fragile, and might kick the bucket any day. So this is their last chance effort. So they are tossing it in just to maybe a jury will find him guilty, which is, in my opinion, the absolute wrong reason to prosecute anybody. It's the evidence that should lead you to a prosecution. And if it hasn't led you to a prosecution in 15 years since this guy started asking questions, then it shouldn't be in court at all, in my opinion. And I want this dude to be guilty, but there's no evidence. There's simply no evidence. Let's continue.
Back to Mr. Imbordino.
On that note, Detective, do you recall the defendant stating that he had asked Alyssa's friends to write letters?
Yes, there's a number of her friends that he contacted and requested they write letters and asked them to put certain things in the letters.
Now, Ms. Hicks,
How is
yesterday,
that not objection? Speculation. How is that not speculation? If it's speculation for asking about what did that guy say, why is this not speculation? Jesus Christ!
they
But the defense
ask
doesn't.
you about a transcript of a primetime interview, and so that nobody gets confused here, let me step you through this.
One, for closure. Two, there's some very suspicious acts from him that if it were together with some physical evidence, then yeah, but it's closure for everybody. And otherwise, if he's not found guilty, this means that everything about this trial was a waste of time for everybody. This guy has been jailed since 2021. No bail. For nothing if he's acquitted. And I don't know the state of him was when they sent him into jail, but it certainly haven't improved.
So there's the broadcast. There's a live broadcast, correct?
Correct. Well,
And-
it wasn't live. It was broadcast on TV.
He couldn't afford it.
Yeah, thank you.
He's on
Um,
benefits. So even a $5,000 or $10,000 bail,
What she showed you
you
was
can't
a
afford it.
transcript of an interview done of the
and his
defendant.
kids won't.
But did all of that,
His kids accuses him.
everything said in that transcript, make it onto the broadcast?
No, ABC on their website had published the raw interview transcript.
Good question. I don't want the jury to find him guilty. I want him to be guilty based on evidence. That's why I chose this trial. Please God, make it that I have the evidence to put this guy away. If that makes it clearer. John Gary says, in my opinion, the contract, his creepy behavior, and the missing video he claimed showed nothing but refused to share with the police was enough PC to go to trial. Beyond a reasonable doubt is another story. Yeah. They need some physical evidence. But the evidence they have shown so far is there was a call from California. They try to claim that the call, you can't say it was picked up or not. Well, if you can't, then it should be in the defense favor. Had these cops investigated at least something back in 2001, they might have uncovered something. I believe now it's too late. You can't reward crap investigations.
It wasn't the entire show. That was the entire interview they put on. That's what she showed me.
Do you recall watching the clips from the broadcast yesterday?
Yes.
And do you recall the defendant saying, in response to a question from Mr. Kionis, that he told, these are my words, I don't mean to imply they're the direct words of the defendant, that he had told the police that he watched that tape and there was nothing on it.
Yes.
And at some point, the defendant makes a statement that he watched the entire 8 hours from the day, correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing on it.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Wolfram.
So
Have you been here long? Sorry, I didn't.
Ms.
notice.
Hicks indicated the defendant said in another statement that he asked Detective Schoenfelder if he wanted it. So I guess he was asking him, do you want this tape that has nothing on it?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Well, let me ask you this. If somebody came to you in an investigation and said, I have a blank VHS tape,
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. This is a hypothetical. You may continue.
Oh.
And it had
I hate
nothing on it.
this. Well, it's a hy-
is it going to help you in your investigation?
When did you stop
No.
beating your wife? That's a hypothetical.
On the other hand,
not allowed.
if the defendant
Or
had provided
this be?
police or you with the actual recording from that day, might that have been helpful to you?
Yeah, that recording would have a lot of information. It would show Alissa and the defendant coming home. It would show us what Alyssa's wearing. It would show their interaction. It would show
That
the
is the
defendant
original
leaving and then
investigator's
presumably Alyssa
fault.
leaving after that if the story that he told us was accurate.
That's the original investigator's fault. Had they shown up that day when he called in to try to get them there, had they requested it when they eventually showed up a week later, it would have been there. 7 years later. Oh, he just saved. Well, You did jack shit, the police, for 7 years. Oh. Ooh,
I believe Ms. Hicks asked you.
that's a bad, but apparently not enough unusual, or not unusual enough. There's been plenty of example that I've heard with, for instance, cops raiding, having a drug bust, and the count on place was $500,000 or $50,000. Once they get to the impound, look here, boss, we received we confiscated 25,000. Yeah.
Question. Isn't it true that you didn't find VHS recordings from every day? These are not her words. Every day in the life of this family.
Correct.
Now, keeping in mind, I think I asked you yesterday, did these VHS tapes that you did review, did they have time and date stamps?
No, they did not.
But in any event, was May 17th, 2001 like every other day in their lives?
Yes.
Well, what was different about it?
Well, that's the day that Alissa disappeared.
So wouldn't a tape from that day be a little more important than some ordinary day?
It would probably be the most significant tape in this investigation.
You mean the most significant day in the police investigation, which your department, or the original, forked up?
Ms. Hiss asked questions that there possibly might have been another phone in the bedroom linked.
I don't agree. If they believe she was a runaway as a minor, can we please see the tape? We want to see what she was wearing when she left. Even as a runaway. Oh, she's 17. Still a minor. They could entered into missing or runaway people, whatever directory they enter. We know the clothes she wore at least the morning and the afternoon. Anything. Now, if it, yeah.
Landline. In other words, two phones, same landline number, correct?
Yes.
Did the defendant ever say that the reason he did not have this recording was because he answered the phone in the bedroom?
No, I never saw a statement like that.
Here's the thing. That was burden shifting. Did the defendant ever say, you have the burden of proof, prosecutor. You need to prove that the recording acted the way you allege, in my opinion.
Now, let me ask you about a couple of questions about cell phone records. And in fairness, had you had the case back in 2001, might you have attempted to obtain cell phone records at the time?
Yes.
And I don't know if you know, you can tell us if you know the answer to this, but for example, today, under today's technology, it is possible to obtain information giving you a general location from where a phone call is made and where it's received on a cell phone, correct?
Yes. The phone companies record cell sites that are used.
This was a primitive technology back in the day, but you could, back then, with that technology, GPS existed, cell phone towers existed. You can't refer to today's technology to make a point about 23-year-old technology. This is so damn shady.
As part of their routine business.
D-
It helps us lead to a geographic location.
Do you know whether that
I have it.
existed in 2001?
It did, not to the level of
I
sophistication
have it on
of today, but
They're
yes,
right
it did.
above the tractor.
And in order to obtain, so for example, if you've mentioned that there were calls from the defendant's cell phone to the landline or to Alyssa's cell phone number, correct?
Yes,
So in 2001, you might have been able to get information from the phone company as to where the defendant's cell phone was located generally when he made that call,
yes,
or where Alyssa's cell phone was at when that cell phone received that call.
yes,
Now, obviously that wasn't done, correct?
correct.
What would you have had to do in order to get that information?
Phone companies only maintain that information for a short period of time. Typically, it's 90 days, unless law enforcement puts a request in to preserve that information. They call it a preservation letter. So that would be the first step, and then follow that up with a search warrant or a court order.
And in this case, that wasn't done, correct? So when you and Detective Anderson were assigned the case in 2008, it was too late.
Yeah, the information was already gone.
In that same area,
What would you have done is a stupid question because he wasn't there. What, you're going to convict him based on what this guy could have done if he handled the case back in 2001? Come on.
a record showing a
And
call
why doesn't the
received
defense
by
object?
Alyssa's cell phone, for example, showing at least a call that lasted for approximately 7 minutes. I think you mentioned one of those, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on May 17th, correct?
Yeah, it's at 109.
So it's based on your investigation and information provided by the defendant. That was Alyssa's cell phone number, right?
Yes,
But because the record shows that that cell phone received a call and there was some sort of conversation, perhaps, or a message for 7 minutes, does that tell you who answered the phone?
no, it only shows a phone call was made and it lasted for 7 minutes.
I have never heard of any recording device, or back in the day there were answering machines. I have never heard of an answering machine being at 7 minutes or more. I have minute 90-second tops, because otherwise, if you're gone for a week, the tape would be full within 6 calls. This is so stupid.
Do you recall whether there were star 69 charges? Well, whether star 69 was used after Alissa went missing?
Yes, we found bills that indicated pretty common usage of that.
So the cell phone records that we have in evidence, correct me if I'm wrong, they are from April, May, and June. I don't
Yes.
remember if there's some from July, but at least April, May, and June.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Keep forgetting to turn it on. Sorry.
Are you trying to elude that he didn't press star 69 of the day of the 17th?
Detective, I'm going to put exhibit number 1 on the screen. Ms. Hicks asked you some questions about.
At least over here, maybe we can Google it or something to see. Without knowing what the actual apparatus was, it's probably impossible to know. But at least the ones over here, the mechanical ones, not the one built in, had you had to change the what do you call it? You had to change the And prosecutors, stop touching the microphone.
This note
It's
yesterday, I
not
believe.
your dick.
Mr. Mordino, we'll get that on the screen in just a moment.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I can see it over here.
Yeah, our system is brand new, which would make you think that it would be perfect, but it's not. Are you on Visualizer?
Prosecutor, by the way, is 75 years old. He has been practicing law since 1975. And he's been a prosecutor, I don't know.
Try going to something else and then back to Visualizer.
He opposed the Declaration of Independence or something, I don't know. Bob forward.
Thank you. All right, you've seen this before, correct?
Yes.
Oh.
Ms. Hicks asked you yesterday, and you stated that a forensic examination revealed that, in the opinion of the examiner, this was Alissa's handwriting, correct?
Correct.
Does this document tell you when it was written?
No, they're not able to tell that.
Is there a date on this document?
No.
Now, I have a couple of questions in reference to the various statements the defendant has made about May 17th. First of all, did he ever say that he took Alissa to school that day?
No.
Did he ever say that he took Alissa and Sarah together to go to school that day?
No.
Let me ask you to assume, Detective, that Sarah testified in this case. This is assume that she did. Her recollection was they got home around sometime, I think she said between 4 and 4:30. Picked her up from her friend's house. Okay.
Okay.
You recall the defendant speaking with some.
Hold on. There was a call out 401. If you choose to believe the sister, that would mean somebody was home when Michael was driving to pick her up. If you don't choose to believe Sarah, then this case is done as well.
Buddy from Primetime in a pre-broadcast interview.
Yes.
Do you recall him saying that he believed he and Sarah got home after dark?
Yes.
And dark in May of 2001 would have been approximately what time?
Probably after 7 p.m.
In that interview, did he tell them that he picked Sarah up at a friend's house?
Yes.
Thank you, Wolfram, for gifting 5 memberships. That's very generous of you. Receivers was Jonathan, Very Millionaire, Emily Gale, Just Dawn, Sue Magic. I believe 1 or 2 of you are completely new members. That means there's members-only content on the channel. There's a link to Discord that should be working. Try it out. Tell me if it's not, then I will get a new one. And so you get access to Discord. And where you can talk to each other about the different cases I cover and give tips, hints, and help out. Thank you so much, Wolfram.
In another interview, did he say that he went to the school buses were not there, You remember that?
Yes.
Now, keeping in mind the various statements the defendant has made, and in particular, when he said, you remember, did the defendant say in various statements, I picked her up from school early, we went to lunch, and then went home.
Yes.
In this note, you see anywhere where Alissa wrote,
Jesus Christ.
I decided to leave after we went to lunch and you brought me home.
No.
What does that has to do with anything? You are not in Alyssa's brain. You can't use that note against Michael in any way, shape, or form. But are you demanding that I did this the entire day? That's stupid.
In this note, does she say anything about hating the defendant and that she's leaving because he's monitoring her life too much?
No.
In this note, it appears she's blaming Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah, there's a line there that it seems to have some venom towards her, but not towards the defendant.
She indicates in this note that she was saving money on her own, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that she had a credit union account where she had $1,800 approximately in that account,
Yes.
correct?
I'm quite sure that he testified to the contents of that bank account never been that much. Chat, remind me if you ever saw a receipt where it said plus $1,800 in this trial. I don't think so. That is based on the number of paychecks over a 6-month area of time between $200 and $250. Okay, it was $1,800. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Oh God, don't start with me now. I just paused.
Correct.
There's something around the 2-hour mark. Same happened Wednesday when I covered this trial. I believe it has something to do with StreamYard versus Chrome versus something. I know it happens to Vices as well. During the cross-examination of this guy, he actively tried to read from the contract, despite not being asked to read from the contract. He tried to allude to the accusations of SA.
That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Mr. Imbordino. Ladies and
That was interesting. That's a weird redirect. And I'm not sure that the defense did because the defense actually referenced the contract, and it said something in the style of, my father has not committed SA towards me or my sister. I haven't drank today. I'm drinking lemonade and coffee. Yeah. yeah, and he started off with, if you all remember the letters, that where did you go? There. By trying to implicate Michael by saying, well, Michael told them to write this letter. Yeah, but he didn't dictate what was in it. He might have referenced a few things which they haven't provided evidence for, in my opinion. Just as the witnesses said, well, that's what Michael told me to do. That was what Michael said. Yeah, but he didn't ask the coworker to write about the dirty coworker. He didn't. There's a lot of dirty stuff here just because they know they have zero physical evidence of Michael Turney actually committed this crime he's accused of. So they are desperately trying to get in every innuendo, everything in. He's a retired cop.
Gentlemen, any members of the jury have any questions for the witness? Looks like we have a few.
Okay, witness questions. Let's see.
Jasmine, we're at 3. Okay. Counsel, please approach off the record.
I know. I can show you a minute about my farm walkthrough, if you want. Let's see here. Where is that? Dun dun dun. Let's see. Boom. Members only. Thought I would show you some progress. This is what we have done to the new electricity system. We are building it into what will be the new wall, and we have split it up. So this is the main circuit. This is a separate circuit for upstairs, and here it will be a separate circuit for downstairs. This is just in preparation for maybe renting it out eventually. Apart from that, we have got some preparations for the new wall and what will be the new staircase. Everything in that staircase will, yeah. And the rest is for members. Just so you know, a bit of what is happening for members only. No, that's downstairs. I'm upstairs currently in the part that is finished renovating. Now we are doing downstairs. And I will film, because this was about a month ago and it has been a few things that we have done. So there will be a new members only video out next week. But let's continue with this. Counselor's approach. Yes, it's 220. And since it's a farm, I have a 36 amp breaker, because there's a lot of stuff that I use sometimes that demands a lot of amps. Oh, let's see. That's a lot of questions. I will check this out.
Detective Summershoe, I've got some questions from the jury. Why did it take approximately 7 years for the police to search Alissa's belongings? Let's get closer to that microphone.
Again, Detective Anderson and I took on the case in 2007. The work that was done by the prior detectives, in my opinion, probably could have been better. So yeah, it wasn't done. So
Could have
we
been
took over the
better.
case.
They did jack
There was
shit.
Many things that we did that probably should have been done before.
Why did it take approximately 7 years for the police to canvass the neighborhood?
It would be the same answer on that too.
Why did so much investigation start in the fall of 2008 versus earlier?
We had a new supervisor in the unit, and he was looking at older cases that needed work, and that was one of the ones that he focused on. And he was the one that approached me and Detective Anderson about working on the case.
All right. So this question is a little bit out of order, so I'm happy to reread it to you once we get to the end. Are the two tapes identical? The one submitted to the police by Mr. Turney and the one recovered by the search warrant, referencing the tape of Alissa and Jonathan Lackman and the copy of the tape. You want me to reread it?
No, I think I understand. They appear to be the same recording.
Ooh. Last time I heard, after, I believe it was after the jury questions after Sarah was not good for the defense. These questions, I believe, are good for the defense. They are blaming the police for not taking action, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 7 years to canvass the neighborhood. What were you thinking about finding after 7 years? Oh, look, there's in the hedge a piece of clothing nobody has noticed. What? Oh. Yes, classed as a minor, according to Arizona law.
Are there any other video or audio tapes that had copies? I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
Okay.
counsel.
Yeah, I believe there was some duplication in the recordings. I did find another recording of the John and Alissa tape, but it was somewhat damaged, wasn't working as well as the other ones.
Thank you. Ms. Hicks, does the defense have any follow-up questions to the juror questions?
Yes, just a moment, Your Honor.
Yeah, it might just be that the jury is picking up on the same things we have done. That everything in this case is about why didn't you check earlier? And he answered, well, our new supervisor didn't tell us until 7 years later. Yeah, yeah. Hi, Murph's Turf. Good to see you. And thank you. Yeah, it would be good to have anyone in court to tell how they react to which ones are handing over questions. Hopefully, Sal can be there Monday afternoon.
Sir, going back to the question about the video that the police received, can you clarify? There was a video that Mr. Turney provided to the Phoenix Police Department about
They already got
that
this.
was the fight, right?
Oh,
Do you know if when the police conducted the search, when they found that video, if it was a longer video or if it was just of the fight?
I believe it was just of that segment of the tape that was given to us.
Okay.
Oh, stupid. That was a bad question from the defense. Now he could clarify that no, it was just that snippet that was found and that was given. If it's in your favor, sit down and shut up. That would be the American way. Hey, it's working. Let's not improve it. Just like your measurements. In Swedish, it is pinglan. Translated to English, that's jingles. Exactly. Why emphasize that? Oh, come on. It took you that
I
long
don't
to
have any
discover
questions.
it.
I thought maybe
I was waiting for the defense to finish their
I'm
questions.
sorry, we were waiting for.
Oh,
I apologize.
when you're done, if you'll just give me a no further questions,
That
that
was my
would.
fault. I apologize.
Oh,
All right. Any follow-up questions to the juror questions from the state?
no further up question.
May the witness be excused?
no further questions.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Stupid question from the defense.
And the state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State calls Detective Anderson.
Okay, Detective Anderson.
Sir, if you'll please come forward and be sworn by the clerk. Sir, if you'll please take a walk up that ramp, and once Detective Summershoe has cleared the area, please feel free to have a seat on the witness stand.
Mr. Bailey, do you want to show that picture again?
Oh, don't talk into the microphone.
Counsel, whenever you're ready, you may proceed with your direct examination of the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let us know when you're ready, Detective Anderson.
I am ready, sir.
All right. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is William Anderson. I'm a detective. I work for the City of Phoenix Police Department. I've been an officer there since the year 2000, approximately 23 years. I've worked for the City of Phoenix since 1996 in another professional capacity.
All right. Let's briefly talk about some of the training you have received while the.
Mr. Bailey, if you'll adjust that microphone so the jury can hear you, actually point it towards you. There you go.
That's the trick, Judge. All right. If you could briefly tell us about the training that you initially received to become a police officer.
Certainly, I attended the Aliyah Academy, the Arizona Law Enforcement Academy. It is actually run, certainly, at the academy, defensive tactics, practical academics. Yeah, observation.
Yes,
team
you have the
full of
same,
is
roughly
the-
the same
is the
education.
Aliyah
as-
blended will
Sure you-
spent the 18-week academy in that mixed environment. At the end of that, I'm sworn in as an officer. Beyond that, I became a missing persons detective. I ended up going back and teaching that very class to new recruits.
Oh, so you taught others
Is-
to do a shit
Do
job.
family crimes involve a dynamic that requires an advanced level of interview training.
It does. You are not dealing with random people on the street that have no emotional involvement to the person that
Sorry,
they're
John.
accusing of causing them some harm. Domestic violence specifically, you are dealing with lifelong relationships. You are dealing with husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, people who have children in common. They are intimately woven together. That requires, I'm not pretending to be highly skilled or anything like that, but you need to be aware of those situations that will warp people's
Defense
testimony,
needs to
that will
point
alter
that
what
out
people are willing
every
to
time
tell
they
you
have
about
a
the
chance.
situation in their home.
Did you
Now,
hear
in
that?
2000,
To be aware of those people who have children in common. They are intimately woven together. That requires, I'm not pretending to be highly skilled or anything like that, but you need to be aware of those situations that will warp people's testimony, that will alter what people are willing to tell you about the situation in their home.
now in 2008, what unit were you in?
I did a year or so in the domestic violence unit. And again, that's under the umbrella of family investigations. At that time, Detective Summershoe had gone to the missing persons unit. An opening was presented in missing persons. Everything with Phoenix is competitive. You have to test to go to it. Missing persons is not a entry-level investigative detail because of the nature of the investigations that it contains. I tested. I was lucky enough to get the position, and I began working in
I'm
September
playing
of
this in
2008.
1.25,
So I take
so
from
that
what you
might help.
said, the missing persons unit is a unit within the Family Investigations Bureau.
Yes, Family Investigations Bureau includes the largest segment is obviously the domestic violence, just due to the volume of those calls. It also houses sex assaults, crimes against children, sex offender notification, and my current detail, internet crimes against children.
So when you went to, you said you had additional training for the Family
Key
Investigations
to
Bureau.
this.
Do you receive additional training beyond testing for the missing person unit?
Absolutely, yes. There are ad enforcement
We have
today.
we do.
Sorry.
So, and
Investigator. From the day I went to missing persons, I had a portion of the queue, which is the end of the alphabet. I had literally the letters S through Z. So any missing adult or any missing juvenile who had a last name starting with the letter S through Z became my responsibility. That's a daily duty. There are going to be calls coming in. Phoenix is a large enough
Jesus.
environment that I'm guaranteed to get a report every.
Jesus Christ, David. Where do I fix that? Dun, dun, dun. Permissions? No. Community. I don't see him here. On my, let's do this. Settings. Community. I don't see him here as hidden. I can see Wolfram. He's here. David. Either you keep both hands on the steering wheels or both hands on the phone. Not one hand on the steering wheel, one hand on the phone, or one hand on the phone and the other hand elsewhere. Come on, David. Get it together.
Every day, just because of the volume of these events within the city.
I guess we failed to talk a little bit about the unit itself, so I apologize. Backtracking a little bit, how is the unit structured organizationally?
Organizationally, we have a number of detectives. We divide up the alphabet. You have a detective who's answering, like I mentioned, anybody who has the last name starting with A through C, and then you have a D, E, F, and G, and it on and on until everybody is responsible for a portion of those incoming calls.
So, say you have an investigation that involves a name that falls within your section of the alphabet. Are you working that case alone, or do you work that case with others? How does that process work?
It depends on the case itself. If you have something not exigent, my 16-year-old daughter wanted to go to a party. I told her she couldn't. I went and checked on her and her window's open, and I think she left and went to the party. That is not going to come across as an exigent or concerning event. That child is perfectly capable
You
of
just
navigating
got
the world.
a wrench.
She has an amazing social structure. There's no known harm to that child. That's going to be a lower priority response. Everything is going to get a response. Everybody's going to get a call back to check the welfare and to see if something else has happened. But that initial triage, I'm going to be focusing on younger children. Anybody 8 and under is an automatic response for the entire unit. That's where we're going to roll out based on the age alone. That child needs to be found as soon as possible. You can also take into account Amber Alerts, a child who's been abducted, some sort of stranger interaction, removing that child from its lawful parent, its guardian. That is going to have literally a citywide response, and that will greatly be expanded by other resources. We also have a similar situation for our silver alerts, older persons who are experiencing some sort of dementia, early onset Alzheimer's, some sort of mental impairment that makes them an exigent response. There's something about them that's been diagnosed or it's been witnessed by family members that makes them more vulnerable to the environment alone. That will also have an immediate and a hopefully overwhelming response.
Well, was there a missing person unit within the Family Investigations Bureau back in 2001?
Yes.
Did that, based on your knowledge of that unit, if you have any, did that change at all after you became assigned to the unit?
The unit has grown. We've responded. I mentioned silver alerts. Silver alerts did not exist in 2001. Any sort of specialized response would have been dictated by the detective or by the sergeant at that time, but it was not a hard and fast rule as it is today. It is not a recognized situation as it is today. For minors, you have the Amber Alert. America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response is the acronym for Amber. It's eponymously named for a young lady named Amber Hagerman. She was an unwitnessed abduction in Texas. The child was killed. Her body was found. There was a public outpouring of the people in that community saying, why did you not share this information with us? So law enforcement, trying to be progressive, trying to get better at addressing these issues, created the Amber Alert so that we can put out information for any known or critical event to raise awareness with the public, get more eyes looking for the child.
And apologize if that was probably a bad question, but so structurally, the unit had existed prior to your involvement and even back in 2001.
Yes.
Right. And sergeants or supervisors may come and go and change. And did that occur?
Yes, they do. Very often, in my 7-8 years there, I had more than 7 or 8 supervisors.
All right. So you talked about some of the things that you would do and how you would handle a case when it comes in. How important is the information that you receive when a case comes up in your section of the alphabet? How important is that information to help you begin determining how to proceed on that call?
It literally dictates my response. If I have a parent who comes in and says, hey, my kid ran away, please return her if she is found. That is at low priority. I'm going to ensure that she's appropriately listed in ACIC, NCIC, so that any officer that comes into contact with her knows to detain her and contact that parent. That initial information coming from your reporting party is...
And that would have been in place in 2001 as well. And the original officer didn't do it. It wasn't until Michael Turney forced them that anything happened. Here's a thought. If Michael Turney didn't do all he did, would there even have been an investigation at all by this guy? At all? You think about that. If Michael Turney hadn't called every cop, called every supervisor, called police chiefs, called the almost the head of states, called the congressman, would he even have an investigation to start? Now you can argue that both ways, that, oh, Mr. Turney used to be a police officer. He was trying to cover his tracks by alerting everybody, including the FBI. Yeah, I don't... Yeah.
The most critical information. It dictates the tenor of that
Tweety.
investigation.
Hey, Tweety.
So if a parent or reporting party has concerns, specific concerns about something that might affect the welfare or safety of an individual that is missing, is that information that's important to be communicated as early as possible?
Absolutely. You can't withhold that content.
Once you receive a call or report of a missing person, you said there's various possibilities. There's at least some possibilities on how you will analyze that information and begin to investigate that case. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Right.
But that is damned if you do, damned if you don't. Say he just phoned it in. She ran away and did nothing. Would that change your opinion if this went to trial? Then they could have argued, look at this guy. He didn't even look for her because he knew she was dead because he killed her. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can argue either way. And if you can argue either way, reasonable doubt.
Once you receive a case that you determine requires some additional work immediately, what do you do?
Yeah, but Amber Alerts, no, but she ran away. Okay, let's put her in the system. Nobody put her in the system until Michael Turney forced them to. So, yeah.
Arrange with my supervisor, arrange with my other peers.
And my argument is that had he not done this, had he just reported her as a runaway, none of this would have happened. So you can argue that, yes, he brought it on himself, but also they wouldn't have had any case if he didn't. You can argue it either way. I already said that. Let's move on.
The manpower needed to address that issue.
All right. So if I make a report that my daughter has ran away, if I make a report that my mother, who I always see every day, did not come home and she's under my care, would you initially go out to either my residence or residences where that individual is known to live at or stay?
Yeah, you're going to perform the appropriate follow-up for the situation. If you're telling me you have an elderly relative and there is a obvious and perceived break in her pattern of life, that's going to get my attention. If you're telling me I have a unruly, out-of-pocket child who's on her own, she's going to be listed, but I don't have the ability nor the will to begin combing the city for a child who's disobedient to you.
Oh,
You talked about receiving some information that initially.
let's just take a moment and think about that, what he's actually saying. If a minor teenager goes away because she's disobedient, he won't do jack shit. Yet he is here in this trial. Why? It might very well be so that their hunch is good. You need evidence, some kind of physical evidence.
Information and putting it into a database.
Yes.
What was that database again?
It's ACIC and NCIC. Again, that's how law enforcement, whether it's city, county, state, or federal, we all communicate to that information. Think of it, if you have a warrant for your arrest, everybody in uniform knows about that. All right, we don't have a list of it, but as soon as we inquire about your name, your date of birth, your social security number, we are going to be informed of it at that point. It's going to have specific, explicit directions on what the offense is and what is to be done with you and who is to be contacted to address your arrest or detention.
Can these systems account for, I guess, entry errors?
Absolutely. You can misspell something. Let's take Alissa Turney as an example. That's Alissa Marie Turney. I can run Alissa with an I. I can run Alissa with a Y. I can run Alissa Christine Turney. I can run Alissa Tersey. I can run Alissa Turner. And I will get a response from the machine telling me this is a possible match for your missing person. This is a possible match for an arrest warrant.
And we don't need to go through the variations, but would that apply for things like hair color? If you're entering that information, is there considerations that there could be errors or things like that?
Yes, your hair color is irrelevant. You can change your hair color, or you can completely lose your hair. It does not matter. Same thing with eyes. If I contact you, you have the height and weight, the general build, but your eyes are actually, in my opinion, brown instead of green. I'm still going to do additional follow-up to ensure that you're the right person or to corroborate that you're not the right person.
All right. And have you investigated during your career cases where
Now he might be opening the door to be questioned about what they did or didn't do about tips. Incoming calls saying they thought they saw Alissa. Now I know the previous witness on when we streamed on Wednesday said that, well, if the phone in that they saw a 17-year-old Alissa in 2015, 2016, well, then she would have been close to 30. So yeah, I understand that, but yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty of women who can make up that they look in their early 20s. So even though they are in their mid 30s, so
children have ran away?
Yes, very, very often.
Right. And have you investigated cases during your career where children have been abducted and murdered?
Yes, unfortunately. The last actual Amber Alert for Phoenix occurred last night. The last one I actively worked on was Christmas Day of 2009. That was Natalie Rose Flores. She was a 5-year-old girl. She was abducted. Now, Natalie was recovered alive, but post.
What does
horrible
this have
traumatic
to
events
do
that happened
with
to her.
this case?
Have you investigated cases where the person reporting a runaway or a missing person was actually the one that abducted that person?
Yes, the worst one that comes to mind is the parent of Jesse Shockley. Again, another 4-year-old child. That was
We don't need to go into the actual details, but does it happen enough where you actually have a term for that?
Yes, it's called FACA, F-A-C-A. It's a false allegation of child abduction. It is any event where a parent or responsible
she
party
wasn't a
contacts law
child. She
enforcement
was
out of
17.
apparent due diligence to report somebody missing, and it ends up being part of a charade or their attempt to adjust interest away from themselves when they are in fact responsible for the disappearance or murder of that child.
Don't know if it's necessary, but you mentioned you're not a cold case detective.
That's true.
Thank you, David. Yeah, penance for hiding Wolfram for a bit, and contributions towards to Let's Get Treaty, a sense of humor. Oh, David. Thank you for your $20. You could have written this in a $5 super chat and sent $15 to Zachariah. Bad David. I'm kidding. David last night made an amazing stream that everybody needs to see. David put a link in the chat about the Zachariah Anderson's Denny motion. That was a great stream. Thank you so much, David, by the way. Oh, Farrell is here. Says good luck, David. Hello, Farrell. Good to see you. Let's get back to this. Let's make him do his presentation. Then I'm going to direct you to the next phase,
Right.
which it's the next stream that should start 6 o'clock. Damn, have I redirected yet? I don't know. Oh, damn. Hold on. Have I done it? No, dumb. There. Redirect to this one. This one. We do a few minutes more, then I will redirect you to the next one, who starts in. Does it start in 30 minutes? No. Does it? Sorry. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, it's 30 minutes. Okay, let's do 15, 20 more minutes, and then I will redirect you to next, so I can have a small break and stuff like that. Okay.
I did not come to the detail and begin looking through all the old reports with time on my hand. I came to the detail. I had an active queue. Again, I worked with not only Detective Summershoe, but I worked with Detective. He's a sergeant. He was Sergeant Chapman. When I went to the detail, he was Officer Chapman. When I knew him back then, he's now Assistant Chief Chapman. But we went through the entire volume of my queue. So we made a conscious effort to deal with Vernette Wester, single mother of 5 who went missing in 1985. I made a conscious effort to go through.
Objection relevance.
And we'll move along, Judge. So when you say, just to make sure, when you say or to help us understand, when you say cold case, we don't necessarily need to get into any past experiences, but what does cold case mean?
Cold case is something that it's old, it is unresolved, and there are no active leads.
So when you say you were not given a caseload or assignment for cold cases, but you became involved in the, did you become involved in the Turney investigation?
I did.
How does that work?
Well, I was trying to say there are many other cases that I've been involved in since coming to the missing persons detail. I drifted towards and I focused on Alissa Turney because of her age and because of other factors I identified with the family.
All right. Did you prepare a number of reports for this investigation?
I've lost count with how many reports. It's well over 2,000 pages of documents now.
And do you have those reports with you today?
In a digital format, yes.
So I believe that has been fine with defense, but if we need to refer to your reports, will you please let us know that you're doing so? And if necessary, we can show that to defense.
Certainly.
So how did you become involved in the Alissa Turney investigation?
Okay.
Again, Alissa Turney was one of a number of unresolved investigations that fell within my responsibility, my area of responsibility, Phoenix citizens S through Z.
And what did you initially do after becoming involved with that investigation?
The first thing you do is you pull up all the documents related to that interview, you read through it, you get yourself caught up.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Speed, you look for anything that's been impounded, any sort of case notation, and then you look for the person that you contact for the family. You're typically your reporting party.
At some point in this initial process, do you determine it'd be helpful to interview people?
Yes, that is when you're trying to piece together a missing person investigation, regardless of whether it's a juvenile or whether it's an adult, you have to have that pattern of life. You have to speak to the people in the home. You need to speak to people in her neighborhood. For a 17-year-old girl, you absolutely must investigate her social life. You need to know who she went to high school with. At this high school, you need to.
And from 2008 to 2019, you wore the sister down until she believed her father did it. That's my theory.
Know who she went to high school with. At the second high school, you need to speak to her boyfriend, you need to speak to her employer and people that she worked with.
Did some of those people that you, and actually that was a poor question that I asked before. When I said at some point, did you decide you needed to interview some people? How early on did you decide you needed to interview some additional people for this investigation?
Relatively quick. Looking over the initial report, there'd been no canvas, there's no documentation.
The initial, there was nothing. So yes, he did initial investigations. And
as to the entire family.
Jesus Christ. This is why I broke this stream up in 2 streams, because after 2 hours, this kind of BS starts happening. That the stream I'm streaming from, or the video I'm streaming from, is starting to buffer, even though you can clearly see down here it has at least 2 minutes of buffering, and it still does the buffering thing. So that's why.
Family tree Obviously, it was reported as a runaway. Going to California, I don't see any supplements involving her relatives in California. That's not acceptable. That needs to be addressed. When I'm looking at that 17-year-old girl, she has to be alive somewhere and simply has not been communicated to us, or something very serious has happened to her.
Following up on that, let's say you have an initial report that comes in. Let's just use me. I report that my child has gone missing. My child is older, and maybe they're mid-teens or so. They often run away, go to a party, something like that. Is that a priority for you?
No, absolutely not. That child is going to be, she left your control against your wishes, but she went to be with her friends, her social circle, her boyfriend. If you're not hearing from those friends, she's more than likely perfectly fine.
If my child has not come back and now it's the next day, does that increase your level of concern at that point?
There's always going to be an incremental increase, but one day is not significant. And specifically, if you're talking about somebody.
And this is why you, as a parent, have to be persistent against officers like this who says, oh, it's no bother if she's not back within an hour or two or the next day. No worries. You, as a parent, if your child has gone missing, ran away, or anything, this is the reason why you need to be persistent. You can call in missing, runaway the minute you believe your child has gone missing or run away or anything, because cops like this will do jack crap unless you are persistent. And he just told you that. He doesn't care unless they have been gone for a week or more. He does not care. And he told you that. And now he tries to make up for it by, oh, but I'm doing stuff now. That's not good enough.
Who left on her last day of school, who has friends that are graduating or have friends that are going to be celebrating their emancipation from school. I'm going to give her a wide breadth of time before she comes back.
And if I now report that it's been a year since I have seen my child, does that change things?
Yes. In my opinion, as soon as that child approaches 18, whatever issue, known or unknown, that has driven her away from the home, if she's gone to the length that she's not recontacted any relatives, but now she's 18 and she's an adult.
According to everything we know, she went to California to her aunt. Now the aunt is dead. I don't know, when did the aunt die? Turney's aunt die. Tools, verbatim. I don't remember. I'm trying to find anything. Okay. I don't find anything, a date when the aunt died. We do know she has passed away since, but I don't have a date for it. Maybe you can help out in the chat while I move forward here.
I have certain obligations to change her profile. As a missing juvenile, your for lack of a better description, your property. I'm going to detain you. I'm going to contact your parent, and I'm going to arrange for you to go home. I'm also going to pull you aside and see if there's anything that drove you away from the home. That's where that AFIT training comes in. I'm going to see if there's a purpose for you to run, all right? A significant purpose, not just not getting along with mom and dad. When you become 18, that changes. I check.
I think David needs an emotional support box wine. That makes him do funny stuff.
Your welfare. I document who you're with, what vehicle you're in, what you're doing. I obtain information about what you're doing in life so that I can see that you are successful and not encumbered and not under somebody else's sway. But I do not report that information to your reporting party. They get a courtesy call saying, we found this person, they're alive and well. They were advised that they had been listed as a missing person. We're closing your case.
Right. So is the passage of time data, for lack of a better word, that the missing person unit utilizes in determining the exigency of the investigation it needs to do?
Absolutely. You being missing for an hour is not concerning. 6 hours is not concerning. 24 hours is not concerning.
What's the statistics of a runaway missing person if there is foul play? How much does the odds change of that person being dead the first of the 48 hours? I believe the chances are staggering. And this cop just admits that they don't do jack shit for at least 24 hours. Now, I know that the dad reported her as a runaway, but she is a minor.
As you're talking about older persons, 17, 18, 19, 20, without some sort of exigent event,
17 is a minor, asshole.
You're not a concern. I'm not going to comb the world looking for you. There's no exigency there. As time marches on, as you miss birthdays and holidays without recontacting your loved ones, without returning to that record.
Prove that she wasn't at her aunt's house. How can you do that? You can't, because you waited to prosecute after the aunt passed away. Now, this might be a bit over the top, because I don't have the date when the aunt actually passed away.
Nice pattern of life.
But you didn't even get, the original cops didn't even get a statement from the aunt. They didn't care. So it's gone.
That introduces exigency.
What does it do to the exigency level if a reporting party informs the missing person unit that after the individual has ran away, they've had some kind of contact with that person?
You have put out whatever fire was present. You have told me this person reached out to me. They have the means, the ability to contact me. You have told me that that person is alive and well, and they are simply out of your control and not willing to return to you.
All right, we talked about some interviews that you decided that needed to be done. You are the case agent, so you have been you're able to sit through the trial. You've seen some of the people who have testified. However, did you interview family members who have not?
Maybe he was spotted. We don't know. So she hid until he went away. We don't know, because the cops didn't care. Turney, if he had walked into the aunt's property, he would have been arrested for trespassing. We already know aunt tried to get custody of all the children after the mother of the children died. We already know that. Who had the opportunity to go into the aunt's house to ask questions? The police. What did they do? Jack shit. I appreciate you doing this Old Wine Red and John Gary in other cases. I really do, because I don't want to be a megaphone to an applauding audience. Challenge me if you think I'm off the rails. Please do that. There's a chance, but I doubt it, because they have reached trial and judges really don't want to make that call. Valhalla is here. Perfect. In 3 minutes, I'm going to redirect you to the next stream, which is in 15 minutes after I end this stream, so I can bathroom break and grab a bite to eat, brew more coffee and stuff like that.
Testified at trial.
Yes.
Did you interview neighbors and friends who have not testified at trial?
Absolutely.
Do you have this may be
Okay, so my interpretation of that is that these witnesses did not say what you wanted them to say. They are bad for your case. That's my interpretation. They didn't want to, because they didn't want to implicate the father. That's my interpretation. Maybe. We don't know. They haven't testified.
a difficult question, but do you have the ability to recall how many interviews you did for this case?
I would give you the total numbers is approaching 200 individuals who went to whose information was enough, specific enough, important enough that they were documented. Beyond that, through the neighborhood canvases alone, you can add another 100 people to it.
I apologize. I don't want to use up any court time, but I wasn't sure that Detective Summershoe was asked what a canvas is. What is a canvas that you're talking about of a neighborhood?
A canvas. Where you live is important to me. That's the people immediately around you. I'm concerned about sex offenders. I'm concerned about your neighbor next door. I'm concerned about that 20-year-old boy who lives across the street, whether you know him or not. Performing the neighborhood canvas gives me intelligence. It gives me an aspect of your identity. It shows me what's immediately around you. Specifically for Alissa, I know that with 8 years having passed, if she had any peers in that neighborhood, they've likely moved on. They've gone to college, they've gotten jobs, they've moved out, they've started families on their own, but their parents may be there still. So I'm trying to determine people that may have known her, may have seen her, may have some intelligence about her.
Okay. I'm going to redirect you to next stream in 15 minutes. Because I need to go. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Thank you for the super chats. And I'll see you in 15 minutes. All of you. Plus, bring friends. Oh, yeah. See you later. Bye-bye.